So I'm Jessica Buford.
I'm Ishmael. This is Layla. Say hey.
No. Um, so our experience with the vein of Galen was very sudden. Our pregnancy was normal, 100% normal. There was nothing alarming. I had her at 39 weeks, and then all of a sudden there was this heart murmur, and the nurse took her to have her 24-hour checkup. And I woke up in a panic because, funny story, I had just watched this movie on Lifetime where the nurse took the baby. So I woke up in a panic and was like, babe, go find the kid. And so he rushed out of the room, and we found out that Layla was in the NICU at Piedmont in Fayetteville, Georgia. And they were saying that there was something wrong with her heart. And that's all we kind of knew because of this heart murmur. And then her pediatrician came in, and then another cardiologist came in, and they ended up somehow placing a stethoscope on her fontanelle, and they heard like waves crashing was how they described it. And so she was rushed to the NICU at Piedmont Fayetteville, and there was this doctor, this old man. He was like, so yeah, we expect for you to get ready because the guy that I know who handled this, it's called the vein of Galen, died in France like 5 years ago or something like that, didn't he?
Something like that.
And we burst out into tears, and we cried and cried and cried. But then they ended up saying, okay, so we have to transfer you to CHOA, Children's Hospital of Atlanta. And we transferred there. There is where we actually heard about Dr. B's team. After being there for only like a couple of hours, we had like this serious family meeting with a neurosurgeon from Emory, and he mentioned Dr. Berenstein's name. And Ishmael, what did you ask him? He asked him like a pertinent question.
Well, he first told us that he could do Layla's surgery, but he wanted to wait
at least a week.
Another week.
She was already like a day and a half old at this point.
Yeah, he wanted to wait a week. He wasn't sure she was going to last a week. So in the conversation, he told us about Dr. Berenstein. He told us about Dr. Orbach,
but in Boston.
And the conversation basically led to me having a heart and said, okay, well, if this was your child, what would you do? You know, because he said, I could do this. So he sounded kind of hesitant. So I just said, if this was your child, what would you do? And he said, if it was my child, I will find a way to get it to New York. And from there, Jessica hit the ground running with reaching out to Dr. Berenstein's team.
First, Dr. Keene said, we have to see if she pees.
Yeah, that was
and we went into serious prayer. Her godparents, our parents, we went into prayer, and we were like, okay, she's got to pee. Just a trickle of pee. Trickle of pee. Because we were like, if we can find out, you know, how to get there, what is the probability of us being able to, you know, transfer her? And Dr. King was just like, she just needs to pee.
Yeah, they were very helpful. I think they reached out as well before we at the same time,
so
something like that.
Ishmael disappeared. He went to, I think, the garden. It was the calming garden at CHOA. And I went into the room, and I was hysterical. I was crying because I was just like, this man just told me again that there's a possibility that this can't work. It might not happen. But if she pees. So I was like, okay, so let me just wipe my tears away and let me Google at least Berenstein. That's all I had remembered. I didn't remember Dr. Alejandro Berenstein. I just remembered Berenstein. I Googled his name, and the first number I saw, I called it. And I was expecting to get like a machine. I was expecting to get, you know, the whole process when you call a doctor's office. Oh, okay, we are here Monday through Friday. And no, I got a person. I got Michelle. And I was like, was it Michelle? No. Who was it?
Christine.
No, it wasn't Christine.
Not Christine, I'm sorry.
I can't remember her name.
Goodness gracious.
I know.
It's on to my tongue.
charge it to my head, not my heart. But anyway, we got one of the nurses, and I was like, I wasn't prepared for that. I was like, hi, my daughter has just been diagnosed with the vein of Galen. And she was like, okay, I'm going to hand the phone over to Evelyn. And I spoke to Evelyn, and I was like, okay, who are you? And she was like, I'm the PA. I was like, the PA? I was like, this is serious. Like, we're getting somewhere. And she said, I need to speak to the doctor. And from there, Dr. King, I said, Dr. King, you got to come here. The PA's on the line. And they took my phone for a couple of hours. And within the next, like,
it wasn't
not even a day, Layla was being transferred to New York.
Yeah, when you got your phone back, at that point, it was just, we're going to monitor her to see if she pees. And that night, I don't think we really slept. We were up. And I remember we got the call. They didn't even call us and say, hey, she peed. We got the call saying, hey, the medevac people are here.
Yes.
So I had to run home, grab a bag. I just threw some clothes in the bag for her and ran back up to the hospital and said my last goodbyes. And all this happened literally within 24, maybe a little over 24 hours.
We didn't know that this was even a possibility. Mm-hmm. When Evelyn spoke to Dr. King, it was almost like it's done from there.
Yeah.
You just need to get her here. That is it. Without Evelyn, that phone call, her getting on the phone and being so proactive, I don't know if this little one that you see here would be here, so to speak, because Evelyn moved so fast. It was just like, okay, process. I understand you're the mom, but you can't help me anymore. So can you give the phone to the doctor? And I'm like, yes. I arrived to New York and Evelyn was still there. I got there at like 11 p.m. at night. And I was like, aren't you off? That was like what was going through my head. Aren't you off? Shouldn't you be home with your family? She was like, this was the most important thing right now, was getting Layla here. And I think the next day, Layla ended up having a procedure. Mm-hmm. And all I remember was Evelyn coming in and explaining exactly what was going to happen. And because she was so thorough with what was being done, what was going to be done to my daughter, I was able to explain it to him, who was still in Georgia. So we came from Georgia to New York. And the next day we had the procedure going on. And Evelyn was explaining on the way to the operating room, this is what's got to happen. But the details, because of her details, I was able to explain it to everybody. I think I posted on Facebook. I was like, this is how it was explained in layman's terms to me, so everybody else can fully understand. And I can't tell you how grateful I am. There's a lot of different resources out there now, but for a parent who had none of those resources, who called the office, got a nurse, and then got the PA.
Yeah, we literally learned about the diagnosis the day after she was born, got to the hospital, had a meeting later that night. The meeting was actually the next day. Mm-hmm. The meeting was the next day. After we had a meeting the next day. Jessica, when she told me she was going to call, honestly, like she said, I thought it was going to be like a whole doctor's office run around, like, okay, the office hours X, Y, and Z, fax over, have the doctor fax. I thought it was going to be something like that, but when it was
she was literally like 3 days old, or 2.5 days when we got to New York.
Yeah, because we really were in the dark. We just knew that from everyone we spoke to, it was very dim. From the surgeon we spoke to here, it seemed very dim. And it was just a miracle, honestly. Doctors B's office, Evelyn, the whole team has been nothing but a blessing, honestly. I don't know where we would have been if we I don't know. I couldn't even imagine. I don't even want to
My
think about it that
godmother,
way.
who's a pain specialist, was calling
Yeah.
people in Texas and
Yeah.
Ohio. I said Texas and Ohio. And I was looking up mortality rates on the vein of Galen. I was like, no, Evelyn sounds a lot more sure and confident. So we're gonna go to New York.
Yeah, we had a whole thing because and that was another thing also. We her godmother knew people in Texas and Ohio, and it was a pull between going there and going to New York. But I think it really came into once the doctor, the surgeon, told us that he would have to take a child to New York. I think that was it for us. We had our mind. After I asked him, he told me I would get my child to New York. After that, our mind was made up. It was just we didn't know how fast and how much urgency everyone would move. That was the craziest part of it all.
Yeah.
That was the craziest part of it all.
And I really applaud Evelyn and everything she does. She treats all of the children, at least that I have experienced her with or heard or spoken to other parents about her with. They say that she treated their child as if she was their mom. Like, we've got to do the absolute best no matter what, because this child is important. Mm-hmm. And she made the parents feel important. She was detailed, thorough. If I had any questions, she was like, this is my number, give me a call. And she answered. She answered every single time. And I know I was probably a worrisome mom. But yeah, I could cry.
Yeah, I can definitely
say. I really could cry.
I definitely say they definitely took care of us. Especially Jessica being there on her own. It was like having a family.
Yes.
In a hospital. It didn't feel like it felt like a family with inside of a hospital. The hospital wasn't so scary.
No. No, Dr. B wasn't scary. Evelyn wasn't scary. I think Evelyn told me, okay, Dr. B's coming up.
Yeah, it's not. You don't get bombarded by a lot of medical terms. It's not that. It's very explaining things is very to the point, openly honest. Again, we were here in Atlanta where Dr. Keenan, they were very open with us. But at the same time, it just didn't feel.
It hit different when we got to New York.
It hit different when we got to New York.
That family factor. Yeah.
It definitely did. I didn't feel like our child was just another patient. It didn't feel that way at all. Honestly, doesn't.
Yeah, and even now, just the checkups, just seeing how you're doing, because this is not just a brain thing for Layla. It was also a very real emotional thing. I think especially for me, because I just had her, and then it's postpartum depression is serious, and I don't think I ever wanted to leave the hospital or do anything. But Evelyn was just like another mom. You've got to take care of you too, because Layla needs you. But we're not going to push it too far. We're going to take it one day at a time. I think I tell everybody that now. We have to take it one day at a time and one step at a time. I don't think she ever told me that it's looking up, it's looking better, it's this, it's that. I don't think that Evelyn wanted to get my hopes up about anything. She just said,
and that was one thing
one step at a time.
Definitely respected. Just the open honesty about it. It's, when it comes to children, a lot of, like, from the doctors we dealt with up until New York, it seemed like they were scared to really be honest with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're young parents, and they're just like, oh yeah, so we're gonna sneak around the truth.
It kind of
that didn't happen when we got to New York with Evelyn. I'm gonna keep it real with you. We don't know.
And at first, it was
one day at a time.
Jessica took it really hard. The honesty, I'm not gonna lie. She took it hard at first, but we had a conversation. I said, well, we want the honesty, you know, like we that's what we want. We don't want any
We don't want any
surprises. We don't want any
sugarcoating.
sugarcoat. We want it to be given to us straight. And on top of that, we knew the people that was giving it to us straight were definitely doing everything in their, you know, powers to make sure our daughter was okay. So,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
yeah, I definitely appreciate everything. You say thank you.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
That's so sweet.